All right. Hi, Rebecca. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm Rebecca Lindsay today, and we're going to be talking a little bit about wellness, photography, and so much more. So, you want to describe a little bit about what your passion is? What's your niche these days?
Well, my passion is my family, but
Mhm.
my work is photography, and my niche is working with, for the most part, with women entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And if I go a little deeper, it's women who are making a positive impact.
Oh, I love that. Like, what are some examples?
I like to work with people who are making the lives of others better, or making the planet better, or making animals' experiences better. And there are people that are coming to me that are hairdressers or inventors, and that's wonderful. But I like the people that are making the world a better place,
Oh,
especially women making the world a better place.
yeah, I love that. So, you're just trying to spread the word about others having that ripple effect,
Yes,
essentially.
definitely.
Ah, very good. Um, so, in your life, as you're a busy photographer on the road, traveling, meeting with people at conventions or one on one, how do you really incorporate wellness into your life?
The first thing that hits my mind is when I hit the ground in another state or another country is I find a running route. I have an All Trails app on my phone, and I always run or walk.
Yeah.
It's how I find locations to shoot in, but it's also how I find myself grounded when I'm in a new place. And it's if I don't run or I don't walk or I don't get into that rhythm when I'm in a new place, it throws me off for the
Mhm.
entire time that I'm there.
So you really crave a bit of a routine.
Yes, I crave it. It doesn't always happen, but I
Uh-huh.
definitely crave it. And again, it's a way that I scout locations. So, for instance, I was in Brooklyn last month for a couple photo shoots, and I brought my dog. I travel with her everywhere,
Mm.
and we do this running loop through the city just to see the light, and we'll do it again in the evening. So it's a way to get my fitness in and explore the city to see what the best backdrop is going to be for my clients.
Oh, I love that because it's a bit of practicality in terms of
Yeah.
time efficiency.
It really, well, I often have a very short turnaround because I don't like to travel from my family for too long. So I've got to pack it in.
Hmm. Yeah, how do you manage that? Like the time away from your children, just the time out of your own routine with travel. What are
Ooh,
some tips for? Because I have a lot of students and patients that travel frequently for work, and trying to manage it all, their own
yeah.
health. What are some things you
Well,
do?
first thing is I have a hard line. I don't travel more than when my children are with their dad. So um, the longest I've ever been away from my kids was up until yesterday. I went to Italy for a photo shoot, and I was gone for 7.5 days, and it was just too much. It was wonderful, but it was really something that I never do. So I fit in things into a 5 day break. So with my child sharing schedule, the longest time that either one of us are away from our children is for 5 days. And so I will squeeze everything into those 5 days that I can, or I'll just say no. I mean, that's family first.
Boundaries.
Yeah, family first. So if I have a client that wants me to be gone for much longer, then it's a simple and polite and loving no, because my obligation is to my own health first and my children second, and then my clients.
I love that. Yeah, so boundaries are super important and they're hard to enforce because saying that no can be so uncomfortable.
It can be, and turning away business that I think,
Yes.
that's saying no to money.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, what I find is when I say no to something, it's because another door is going to open with somebody that needs me either locally or in a better amount of time, and it just aligns. Just having
Uh-huh.
faith that it all will work out.
Right. Yeah, that trust process.
Yeah,
For me, that's a work in
weird.
progress sometimes. um, so, what does wellness really mean to you personally?
Mm. Um, well, just a bit of background and some very personal things. I found myself in deep depression when I became a single mom, with not having enough money, not having enough food, not having enough resources, support, family, all that stuff I didn't have. So I had to find a way to feel well with what was around me, and oftentimes that would be hiking because it was very little money, or cooking with little food.
Hmm.
Meditating, sleeping, and just resting. So sometimes wellness for people will mean that they're eating the best that they can and they're getting in all their fitness. But for me, it often means scaling back. Sorry, there's a helicopter
That's
going
okay.
ahead. But for me, something that's come from a real high intensity fitness background, for me, it's scaling back and resting and
Okay.
just and doing a little less. Again, those boundaries coming into play. Like, okay, how can I collect? How can I regroup and feel well in my own inside internally, not just what I look like on the outside.
Hmm. I love that. So when, in the beginning, when you were feeling not your best and you had little resources, how did you kind of pick yourself up out of that place?
Oh man, I found women who'd been down the path before me. That
Mm,
was huge.
mentors.
Absolutely, mentors. I've landed myself in front of a group of personal development coaches. Those are my main group of clients, and I just listened. Every time I'd be photographing them, I'm still recording everything that they're saying. And what I learned from them was the balance, the boundaries, and taking time off. Not working 80 hours a week, but scaling and putting in more quality work instead of quantity, because I was overdoing it. I was spinning my wheels a million miles an hour. So when I was in that point of despair and that depression and that scarcity mentality, just understanding that everything works itself out. Everything is headed towards me. All that goodness is rushing in. And if I just step back and breathe, I allow it to happen. It's like
Yeah.
just going with the flow, really, instead of fighting my way upriver.
So many practical steps there. The balance, the what Tara Brach calls the sacred pause, just pausing for a moment and checking in,
Yes.
boundaries.
And
Yeah.
asking for help. That was my thing too, is I
Mm,
got this. I'm in control. I'm strong enough. I don't need anybody. But I did need those women, those mentors, and getting to pay it forward and mentor other women now, people that are coming up the pathway. We're all just giving each other a hand up.
that's amazing. So when you are kind of mentoring other women, or you're working with a client that maybe feels a little stuck, and you want to bring, their, because they have an inner light and vibrancy, and you want to
Yeah.
bring that out, or that confidence that is in someone. What are some tips and techniques you tell them?
Um, well, for what works for me is being out in nature and writing, and just if I don't use my camera and photograph, then I'm not going to create. So just taking my camera everywhere and finding beauty in the little things, and
Mm,
taking pictures of children if parents allow, or taking pictures in nature. I go to the dog park and I take photographs. So just getting in practice of using my craft and not sitting and waiting for it to come to me. So like, my clients are not always going to be knocking on my door. Sometimes I just have to put myself out there.
mhm.
That being creative, it seems to unstick my wheels when I feel like I'm in a rut.
Yeah, that's huge. If someone was just starting a craft, let's say, for example, and they don't quite have that confidence like that you have right now, but they know that expressing that creativity in whatever means, like for me, I remember when I first started massaging, uh, I had this like feeling of wanting to really express myself and practice the art, but at the same time having a fear like, what if I'm doing it wrong, or if I'm not good enough, or any of that? Have you countered any of that with your clients or yourself?
Absolutely. I get stuck in comparing myself to other photographers.
Mm.
So one of the first things that my coach had me do was to stop looking at social media for
Ah,
inspiration. Because if I see other photographers work, I'm like, oh my God, look how amazing they are. Why am I not doing work like that? How come they have so many followers? And when I stopped doing that, when I stopped looking and finding my purpose in other people's work, I started to really sculpt my style.
ah,
That was
uh-huh.
important, is to get quiet and like know that this thing that I have is my own, and I'm not going to borrow anybody else's talent. Um, and really just having faith that there's enough for all of us, and there's a place for all of us. So if there's somebody that's a creative that is struggling, knowing that if you share and you are creative, there's somebody else that's watching you that needs that inspiration. So if like you're hanging your art up somewhere, or your art is being donated for any reason, that there's somebody that's going to see that and go, oh, I really wish, like, and the other side of the coin is that comparison can actually help somebody. um,
Hmm.
but not getting stuck in the why am I not at that point when we're all on the same path.
Yeah, exactly. You talked a bit about a couple of times this trust and this faith. How did that develop? Because that
Um,
can be hard.
and I don't know, along the way somewhere, I just started to know that it was going to work out. And it was watching people that were, again, had already gone all the way down. They were a little bit stronger, a little more developed. And just knowing, I did jobs for a long time that I just hit my head against the wall. I mean, I was sitting in a cubicle or I was sitting in an office. I mean, I had what looked like a really great job, but inside I was so miserable and I knew that I didn't belong there. And I kept failing. I would fail at the job. I worked in some pretty prestigious, amazing wellness realms, but I was miserable. And every time I would photograph, whether it was for a friend or for their baby or even like a wedding here and there, it felt so right and it felt good. And I had people say, oh my gosh, your work is amazing. And I didn't believe it. But hearing, like, borrowing their confidence, it's like, well, maybe I've got something here. And then like building a portfolio, branching out into different clients, I learned that this was the thing that felt good. And it started to bring in money. That shocked me. And it still shocks me. But it just has felt so perfect. And it's the only thing that I can be this full-time mom and still be a stay-at-home mom when my children are home and then work on my own terms.
So it's this feeling of maybe expansiveness versus when you're in the office or the cubicle, you're feeling like really contracted, totally different emotions.
Yes, definitely closed in. I did feel like I was in a box and I didn't feel like what I was doing was contributing to my own soul or my own family. And that was really important to me. I came from such a broken place, and the photography, the creativeness was healing me. And when I would try and fit it into my weekends or my evenings, it just was exhausting.
Too much.
It was too much.
Yeah.
Too much. So I took the leap. I quit and I had no safety net and I was terrified. And it's worked out. It's been a few years, but it's worked out.
Yeah. Well, I love to watch you grow in your photography.
Thank you.
And how do you practice setting these boundaries?
Oh. On the inside, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I can't even believe I'm saying this. Okay. Like, for instance, I have a really big client. She's incredibly powerful and very strong, and I get a lot of clients from her, but I haven't enjoyed the way that the relationship feels. And recently I said no to an event, and that was really really hard to do, because I know that it could bring me some business and it could bring me some a little more money, but it doesn't feed my soul and it doesn't match my values, especially the values of working for people who are truly uplifting the people around them. And saying no was really hard.
Yeah.
On the inside, I was like, oh, great. But I have a council of women. I have a small group of women, about 5 women I run things past, and 2 men, but they're fabulous. So I have a council, and I went to each of them and I said, what do I do? And I didn't ask them to give me instruction, but like give me advice. And each of them supported my decision. So when I was wavering this week and I had to give them that answer, I got to reflect on them and have their support. So having that tribe of people that I really trust is really important.
Yeah, that's huge.
Right decision in that fog.
Yeah, there's a saying, right? You are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yes, and I have 5 people that I would go to the ends of the earth for, because they do it for me all the time.
And I heard this in a podcast. It's like, even if you haven't found that tribe yet, you can still surround yourself with podcasts,
yes,
with books, and with authors to get you started as you find that tribe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's one way to go about it. I'm so glad you have your tribe. Let's say you do have, now that your business is thriving, you're in a much better place, your daughter's beautiful, your sons are great. Like, what happens though if you do have an off day or an off week, or maybe a challenge or setback? How do you kind of pull yourself out?
Well, it happened yesterday. I had somebody that said something that really, it hurt my feelings. Like, we all have feelings, and I'm a really strong woman, but in my quiet moments, I cried because it really hurt my feelings. But I know that everything is temporary, even those high moments, and I knew that it would pass. And it ended up that she apologized and took responsibility for the conversation. But I have those moments all the time. I was in Italy last week photographing these incredible women, but I still struggle with worthiness and the place that I belong in this world. So I'm up and down all the time. But I will go through and I'll read some of the feedback that I've had from clients, some positive
Oh,
notes,
that's
and
a
that's
great
really
idea.
important. Yeah, and I had a client write me the most amazing letter, and when I feel really low or when I feel like, oh my gosh, am I really supposed to be doing this thing? I'll look at that stuff, or I'll call my best friend and I'll say, Ed, I'm freaking out, and he'll say, honey, keep going, and I'll keep going, and it just like if I could hand something to somebody who's coming up this path, even though I traveled the globe and my business is thriving and I photograph celebrities and incredible women and people that are really making a difference, I still sometimes go, am I really supposed to be doing this? And I need to be reminded. We all have moments of doubt. And just to
Mhm.
keep going, no matter what, keep going, that the day will pass, the rain will pass.
Yeah, I love that because we're all humans, so
Yeah.
it's just normal. And sometimes I think because those emotions are so uncomfortable, the feeling is to immediately run away. But if we kind of sit with it for a bit, like you do, and know that it will pass, and you work through it and come out on the other end, then you have a bit more confidence that no matter what comes your way, you have the ability to roll with it.
And that's that unshakable foundation that I've built, that I still have branches that are up here waving around in the breeze and the wind, but my roots are really stable. And that's so important that I've built that relationship with self, that I have my own back, that no matter what, I'm always going to be here for me. And that was a really, really challenging place to get to for somebody that struggled so hard for so long and was left by men, or left, my father passed away, and all these things that happened that I felt alone. I had to find that comfort and that friendship within myself. And that's when I
Mhm.
began to build my tribe, is when I really knew who I was and was able to have a give relationship with other people. Because for so long I was so open and raw and needy, and I had to become more stable, more
Yeah.
emotionally stable. And that's when I attracted the people that I needed to attract.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much for sharing.
Sure.
Um, eh, are there any other parting like words of tips or advice or wisdom that you would like to share with everyone?
Um, I'd like everybody to know that nobody feels comfortable in front of the camera. Everybody struggles. I think the first thing that I hear is, I really don't photograph well. Or I do. We all feel that
I said
way.
those
Even
words
you
too.
said that.
I
We all feel that
did.
way. And even me, like I told you, like getting on the camera here, I just having the camera, I feel uncomfortable. But know that we all feel uncomfortable in all areas of our life, and just to be gentle to one another, really, because we are all carrying something that none of us know about. So
Yeah.
absolutely, just be gentle. You never know. You just never know whose light you're going to touch or who you're going to affect.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, the other day I had like this weird encounter with someone at the grocery store. She was just anyways, just very disgruntled and almost ran me over and with her shopping cart and wants to get in line and was all in a rough. And you know, at first glance, I was kind of like about to get angry, like what the heck, you know?
Yeah.
But then I realized, I'm like, you know what? Like I don't know her day. Like she could have just had the worst news dropped on her right
Yeah.
before, and she needs to do this thing at the grocery store before she can really come to grips with it all. And who knows? Like, so I'm like, all right, that's her stuff. I'm just going to give her a bit of grace.
Yeah.
And it actually lightened my load because then I didn't need to have that anger at that
Yeah.
moment.
You don't have to carry
You
that on with
know?
you. You notice that in
Yeah.
traffic when it gets frenzied, how you like grip the steering wheel and all of a sudden you're upset too. Like we don't have to carry that, and we can just be kinder. We can offer up. I even ask strangers, "Are you okay?" And sometimes people stop and go, oh, "Thank you for
Yeah.
asking."
Right. Because
Yeah, I've been hugged by strangers when I look at
oh,
that.
yeah, because not everyone, I mean, sometimes family even, we're so busy that we ask the question, but do we really look the other person in the eye and hear the answer, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. So, can you tell us, please, where they can find your beautiful photography and get a hold of you?
On Instagram, I'm at Evolved Imagery. It's EVOLVED Imagery. And my website is evolvedimagery.com. And I named my business that because we're all constantly trying to get closer and closer to whole and rise up. And I feel that way every day. I feel like if I'm, as long as I'm on the path going a little bit further, a little more upwards, that I'm getting closer to whole. And I want to be with people that are on that same pathway.
Yeah, I love it. That's so beautiful.
Thank
Well, thank you so much for sharing everything, your stories, your advice.
you. You are welcome.
Mhm. Thank you. Okay.